Goshen looms towards the outside as they prepare to rise at the second from home. All Mankind dived at it. Goshen tries to get round his outside. It is Goshen now who turns, takes the lead and kicks clear. One more flight to take. It is Goshen and Jamie Moore. They are clear now by 10 winding legs. The final fight for Goshen. He makes a desperate mistake. He has unseated his rider when holding a 10-leg lead.
Very happy to be joined by Steve Packham, owner of, well, a couple of horses going to Cheltenham, but naturally, Steve, we start with Goshen because of the horse he is and the profile that he comes into this year's festival with. And I suppose in some way for all the wrong reasons, if you want to call it those, he and you will always be remembered for 12 months ago. So go on, let's deal with that. Just take me back there.
Well, obviously I've been back there many times, but it was a very strange day. As I think I said on the day, I'd, in my dreams before the day, dreamt of every eventuality, winning, losing, falling at the first, falling at the last. So when what happened, obviously it was a shock, and I can still vividly feel it and relay it in my mind. But it's one of those, he won't be the last horse, and he wasn't the first horse to fall at the last at Cheltenham, and it's part of the game. And in hindsight, I'm quite a positive person, so I just sort of try and take the positives from it. Yeah, from there on in, it's been sort of excitement, looking forward to the future. As I say, I'm not one to dwell on the past. Yeah, it was tough afterwards, and everybody that I spoke to, the press and family and friends, my phone never stopped ringing. It was all very, very sort of good greetings, if you like. Then we move on. We move on and look forward to this year. It's always been my dream to have I've been going to Cheltenham every year for about 30 years. Apart from the foot and mouth year, we haven't missed a year. Myself and there's a group of friends that go every year. My children have started coming with me now as well. So it was extra special.
You said you want to look forward, and we shall. But I just want to take you back again. We've done Cheltenham, and thank you for that. But I also just want to go back to Sandown. That was the first time I saw the horse in the flesh. And I remember interviewing Gary after the race and saying, I think he ran the day before the Tingle Creek. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. Day, right? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I remember interviewing Gary and saying, the Chepstow finale where Gary's often run a horse, and he sort of looked at me and looked at the camera, and I won't forget the look in his eye, and he sort of said, "This is we'll do everything we can to make sure he ends up in the Triumph." And then he basically said off camera, "This is about the best horse I've had, the most talented horse I've had." And all of a sudden, it was one of those chats you do where you go, "Whoa!" It's it made you tingle a little bit, going, he thinks he's got a proper horse here." I mean, at what stage did you know? Was it that Sandown run? Was it before that? Did you think this is an animal?
If I'm being totally honest with you, after his first 3-year-old run at Brighton, we weren't expecting anything, and in fact, there was everybody there, and I think I was the only one that had an each-way bet on him. I think it was 20-1 or something like that. And he beat one of Mark Johnson's, which was odds on. He beat it, I don't know, 15, 20 lengths. And we went into the owner's bar afterwards, and Gary walked in and he said to me, "Do you know what? I think that could win a Triumph." And I sort of looked at him and said, "Are you mad?" He said, "You wait, we'll see." And from that point, Gary, as you know, Gary's a man of very few words. We fancied him when on his first run over hurdles at Fontwell, and it just went from there, really. And that Triumph division I thought was quite a good division last year. Some good horses have come out of it, All of Mankind, Aspire Tell, all those horses have since sort of moved on and doing really well. So, that's always stuck in my mind that after that Brighton race that Gary obviously thought quite a lot of him. And it wasn't until after the Sandown race that that Jamie said to me, straight after the race, we were in the paddock, he said, I don't know what more I can tell you, Steve. He said, he's a bit of a freak. He said, you know, we could be looking at, in the future, a champion hurdle contender. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And it still seems surreal now to even be thinking that. It was a little bit of a sort of strange situation. I stopped with Gary only for the reason of one of the horses got injured and we had to stop with him, and it was right at the beginning of the season. I said to him, well, we'll leave it for this season. We'll look to buy something next summer to go jumping again. That didn't happen, probably just because of my circumstances. The children were off playing rugby and football. My wife was at one end of the county, I was at the other, golf, and we didn't have anything for about 8 to 10 years, something like that, I think it was. I'm saying 8, but it's probably more like 10. And then I saw him at Ascot. My kids bought something from one of my birthdays at Ascot. And Gary's, obviously a racehorse trainer, but he's a good friend of mine as well. So I saw him at Ascot one day. And he said to me, oh my God, what are you doing on a racetrack again? And I said, well, coincidentally, I'm thinking about sort of dabbling back in it again. And that's how I got back involved. Whether it would have been Goshen is a little bit of fate, because he originally offered me another horse from France, from Nicholas, the guy that Gary seems to buy most of his horses from. And I agreed to buy it, and it failed the vet. So all the family were disappointed because they thought they got this new horse coming. Well, I was as well. I still remember where I was when Gary called me. I was really upset about it. So this horse failed the vet, and then about 3 weeks later, he phoned me up and he said, this is not a horse I would normally buy. It's only a 2-year-old. Just been backed and ridden away. JP has just bought his sister for quite a lot of money, I believe. So he could end up being a cheap horse. And his sister turns out to be Ellie May, who's also running in the Mayor's Chase, I believe, at Cheltenham, hopefully. And so he said, the first couple of years are going to be a little bit lost, and you're not going to be achieving much. And I thought, well, that suits me really. With the children, we can see him develop and take it slowly, and that's how we ended up getting him. So, in reality, if the first one hadn't have failed the vet, he wouldn't be mine now. So something must have been looking down at me at that time.
It all worked out all right. Fast forward to just before Wincanton and the sort of redemption run, if you don't mind me calling it that. Where were you with the horse, with Gary, with everything going on after 3 disappointing runs? And I don't know how you equate how disappointing each of them were, 2 on the flat, and then of course the Cheltenham debacle back at the International. But where were you with everything mentally?
I was very positive. Although in the press it got a lot of negative reviews, I could see and we discussed in the team with Gary and Jamie, we could see the reasons for those. Haydock, we went there, it was a muddling race, and he probably wasn't as fit as we thought he was. So that, we sort of drew a line under that. Goodwood, ideal ground, but only out 1.5 miles is his trip. He would want at least 1.6 miles on the flat. And the plan was always for Hector, who rode the perfect race, which we wanted him to do, to go out and lead and try and make all in that race. He got beat by Natural History, who went on to finish second in a Group 2. So we knew that the form, and he's rated 104, I think, from that. So we knew that the horses that were in front of him at Goodwood were decent horses. So again, I wasn't too displeased with that, because it was all about March the 16th. Cheltenham was disappointing. When he came round on the first circuit, I thought he was beaten because he was pulling too hard. He was too keen. We perhaps got the tactics wrong because we thought there might be a strong pace up front. We thought that we'd sit in behind and come late, and that's not the way. We now know that that's not the way that we need to ride Goshen. He needs to go at his own pace. He's got this fantastic mid-pace that Jamie says is unbelievable, and he's never felt anything like it before in his life.
2 from the end. Goshen is up and over, safely clear. Racing down towards the final hurdle. It's Goshen is out in front and clears it safely. Once again, Jamie has a look round both sides, but he's back. Goshen cruising to victory in the Betway Kingwell Hurdle.
Take me through the phone call. Just what were the emotions? What the first thing you said to Gary?
Oh, just complete relief. The first things I said, my exact words to Gary were, I'm just delighted for Jamie and the horse, because Jamie's had a dreadful year, an absolutely dreadful year. He's fantastic, Gary, and I can't speak highly enough for him, the way that he treats all the horses and the attention to detail that he gives these horses.
Last year you were there and almost the unthinkable happened, and this year whatever happens you're not going to be there, which I don't know if it's going to make it easier or harder to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, we was having the same conversation with my wife last year. She was last night. Sorry, she was saying, you've always wanted to have a runner at Cheltenham, and now you're going to hopefully have a runner in the Champion Hurdle, but you can't be there. It's so sad. But as I say, I'm quite a positive person, and it is what it is. If he runs well, I'll obviously be delighted, and obviously I really would like to be there. But perhaps next year we can be there, and all being well, we keep him sound, and it'll come another day. It's just, as I say, I'm just delighted to be associated with a horse that has got the chance to run in it, whether I'm there or not. Gary, in particular, he's just the apple of his eye. He's, as I think Jamie said many times, at 5 o'clock in the morning, he's in there. If he could, I think he'd sleep with the horse. It's that funny, really. Gary says, he calls for me. I said, what do you mean he calls for you? He said, well, in the afternoon when he wants to go out in his pen, he said he calls for me and I have to go and let him out and put him in the pen. He said, we've got a little bit of a bond, and I just laugh. It's hilarious. So it's all very, as I say, I'm delighted, and it's all a bit surreal that I'm involved in something which could end up to be a bit of a fairy tale.